Model Railroaders, it's Steve 87th again for the next installment. In this one, we're actually going to go ahead and show you how I built the roof, the shack roof that we're going to put on top of this. So you can see here's the side detail ends on the one side, and you can also see a little bit more detail on the side of the building. And then this is my top view from Google Maps, which doesn't really show you a lot. I saw a lot more when I actually went there about how the roof is actually constructed. So we're going to go ahead and take you on this journey to build the shack roof. Alrighty, coming back, been a few days, decided I would start re-filming again. So kind of made a decision. I think what I can do is I can go ahead and put the top of the building on, right, which will give this more stability overall, because there's not a lot of stuff holding this on, which is kind of cool. I like it in a way, and you can see how flexible the building is on the sides. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean up the tops so that they're flat, so I can accept the yes, the roof section on it fairly easily. It's really kind of hard to tell. Might be easier to do this with a portable sander rather than with a hard sander. Just to kind of knock off some of the tops. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do all of this type of work, and then we're going to go ahead and start setting up for the top, put the top on. And then what we're going to wind up doing is we'll probably tape these to the glass, put the top on so that it then will set, and then I'll come back and do the painting. That sounds kind of weird, but I think that's going to be my best bet, my best option. So that's how we're going to do it. So let me get to work. Okay. So here we are kind of putting the roof together. So what I failed to tell you guys was I realized something. I had to go back and take some stock and say, you know what? I remember Mike McCarville doing all of his wooden things. And when he did his wooden builds, he was very adamant about making sure that you stained it before you glued it all together, because if you didn't, you were going to have a problem with getting it right. So what I'm going to do instead is we're going to build this upside down out of square, basically, get this all fit up, and then build the roof. Okay, because the roof is a bunch of 2x12s, much like the sides were, that are across but are standing up, and then the roof goes on top of it. So what I need to do is not glue these to the actual sides, but make it so that it will fit, and then build the top of the roof. And then the other thing that's really funny about this, I realized, I've got to put in a bunch of cleats on the posts themselves to make it better. And then So what's driving all of this is that I've got a lot of weathering to do on these things. So since I have the weathering to do, in order for me to do the weathering and get it right and then not have this thing warp, I got to be able to lay these down flat and put some weight on them. So that's what I intend on doing. Okay, so those two will fit in there. We'll get this one. And yeah, I looked on my the way I was doing things, and I found out that I kind of built this a little bit wrong. But again, I'm not a prototype guy. I'm a freelance prototype guy, so that gives me discretion on how I do things. Okay. Now the big thing is I wanted to make sure that all of these would fit. And you can see this is not an easy thing to do. This is a very fragile building, believe it or not. And yeah, I'm hearing the winds kicking up outside. They're pretty bad. There's supposed to be a really bad storm coming in tonight. We've kind of been spared from what everybody else has had to go through lately. But apparently now the storm is coming. So now I've got all of those into place, it looks like. Okay. Need to make this building kind of square. Wow, this is tough. These things are popping out. One side doesn't want to stay in, the other side keeps moving on me. And I got to keep it straight, plus this is really flimsy. Okay. All right, let's just see if I can turn this over with everything connected. Okay. So that is really the way the building's going to look. It's just a shed, don't forget. It's not meant to really do anything. So those are the cross beams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start laying my 2x12s across like I'm supposed to. In some places I have to put bigger ones in because they're not going to fit the way that I want to. So I will go ahead and do that. And I guess I'll put that on time lapse for you, make it easier. All right, so what I'm doing here is I've got it all squared up basically, and it's in where it's supposed to be. And what I'm doing is I'm putting in 2x4s by 12, just like you would in the rafters. The little blue thing that you see there is actually a sanding stick that's giving me my spacing. So this was the way that I chose to build the roof and then finish it off here on the desk. All right, there is the base of the roof. So that has got to sit there and it's got to dry. Got to get that squared up. So that's going to sit there and dry. Okay. Not much else we can do right now. I'm going to do all of the weathering at one shot, so I don't want to do anything there. Just to let you guys know, I did go out and paint, so I have all kinds of roof details to do. Okay, so we're going to let that sit, let that dry, and we'll come back to it. Alrighty, so we're starting up again, and one thing that we got done while I was in a work meeting was we got the roof panels done. And I showed you guys yesterday we had the roof done. Okay, that actually came out to be pretty strong if you look at it. Again, those are all scale 2x4s, so it's pretty amazing. So now we have one more thing, one more detail to put on these wall sections. And then once we get those details on, then we will come back we'll do all of the staining and all that. And I still haven't quite figured out how I'm going to put this together yet. I think after I stain this, I'm going to have to attach this to a base so that I can then make this entire section where all the dirt comes up into it the way that it's supposed to be. So, what have I got to do? Well, we made it so that I got 2x4s. Sorry. I got 2x4s that go over the tops of that right now, right? And then this all fits in there. But what happens is that there is actually a 2x4 butted up to underneath each one. Now, let me see if I can do this. That might be better with this. That in each one of these areas, right, there is a 2x4 that sits underneath here to hold this log up. So I've got to put in all those little 2x4s. And they're all maybe about a foot long or so. And I've got to do that to both sides. Then once that's done, we'll go ahead and stain everything up, because then I will have had everything put together that needs to go on there. Okay? There's still some more lumber and wood that has to go on the outside. But I'm not sure if I'm going to worry about that right now. So my first big thing is, wow, these are really long. And if I make them a foot, that's going to be really tough. So, okay, well, at least I know how to do this. Basically, I'm just going to take one of these squares. Oh, that's O gauge. That's 2 feet. And, you know, that'll be about 1.5 feet. That's not bad. I think we can live with that. And plus, it'll be big enough for me to actually see it and do something with it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up a whole bunch of these. And then we'll start placing them back. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and maybe we'll do some quick action. All right. So what I'm doing here is just with a knife cutting up pieces of the 2x4s that were left over from all the other cuts that I've done. It's a good thing to keep your pieces around. And making just the 1 foot cleats or so that go underneath. So I need 2 for each side, and this actually holds up the beam that goes across. So it's a detail that you really can't see, but it also helps me when I build the building, so that when I am done, I can put the roof on and it'll go to a specific depth, and I won't be able to worry about it having to go all the way through too. So it kind of serves 2 purposes. So here I've got that all finished, all the cleats are done, and now I've moved to just shoring up the ends. So what I needed to do was those last 2x4s that were put up on the ends kind of were too long. So I'm just correcting them all up and making sure they're about the same. And then I also wanted to make sure that I had enough roof panels that were going across. So I wanted to see what the depth of the roof panels were and all. And then put some end pieces on to make it kind of clear at the end, so that everything is kind of all nice and structurally put together. All right, model railroaders. So our next episode is going to be putting in all of these holes and then starting to stain this. So this ends this part 4 of the build, and thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon.